I am Loice Ombajo. I'm an infectious disease specialist. I teach at the University of Nairobi. I'm also a researcher and I co-direct SEMA. So when we think about HIV treatment around the world, most people are on a drug called dolutegravir. And I think it's probably 90% of people on treatment, particularly in low-income settings, are on dolutegravir. It's been a good drug. We've been using it for probably slightly over 10 years now. And people have done very well on it. But the thing about HIV treatment is that the longer you treat a disease, you may begin to see what we call resistance. And resistance means that the virus does not respond to the drug anymore. Dolutegravir being a very good drug, most of the time people don't respond to it because they're not taking the drug. And if someone doesn't take and continues to fail, then eventually the virus develops resistance so that the drug does not kill it anymore, which means we have to think about how else to treat a patient and what options are available. Given the landscape of HIV treatment, we don't have too many other drugs, but I think you've also noticed the challenges around funding and the rest. So we have to think about what is the optimal way to manage someone who is no longer responding to this drug called dolutegravir. And as I said, most people are on this drug. So it's something that we're going to increasingly have to deal with. So the NDOVU study is a study that comes at a time when we need to provide this critical answer, not just for management of patients in Kenya, but for several countries around the world who are looking for guidance on how to manage patients who no longer respond to dolutegravir. So we've designed the NDOVU study to study this population of patients who are failing or who are no longer responding to dolutegravir. And we are going to put together a very large group of patients. One, to look at, have they developed resistance? Do they still continue to respond to dolutegravir if they take it well? And where there's no longer response, we're going to have what we call a clinical trial, where someone may either be switched to a different drug or continue the same drug, and we monitor how they will do while on these treatments. In the process of monitoring how they do, we monitor a lot of critical things to make sure that everybody is safe. So we do what we call a viral load that measures the amount of virus in the blood, which is a marker of how well someone is doing. The lower the virus, the better someone is responding to a drug. We also monitor something called a drug resistance test. And this one tells us whether the virus has developed something we call mutations or changes in its structure that make it no longer respond to the drug. And we also monitor how well someone is taking the drug by looking at, drug levels in the blood. So that's what we'll monitor over time. And at the end of this study, we'd hope to have critical answers that tell us if someone fails on dolutegravir, is it okay for them to continue with it? Should they switch? And if they switch, what should they switch to? And what are those critical determinants of whether someone develops resistance, whether we should do a drug resistance test? Drug resistance tests are useful in telling us how to proceed, but they're also very expensive and not available to most people living in low-income settings. So being able to determine who needs it and whether we need it at all is also a very critical question for us to answer. So we have come together with multiple other specialists and researchers in several countries. So in Kenya, we're working with several HIV experts around the country, and we'll do this study in multiple counties. So in Nairobi, in Kisumu, in Siaya, in Kiambu, in Mombasa, to get as many patients as possible who may already be failing on dolutegravir. We're also partnering with our strong collaborators from other countries. So in Tanzania, we are collaborating with the Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences and experts from there. In Mozambique, we are collaborating with the INS, which is their national HIV program and national lab that monitors drug resistance, and excellent colleagues from Mozambique. In Lesotho, we're collaborating with Solidar Med, which is a group that supports the Ministry of Health in Lesotho in managing HIV. We're also collaborating with colleagues from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine who are supporting some of the aspects of data analysis. In each of these countries, we work very closely with the Ministry of Health and with the national HIV programs to ensure that whatever insights we gather from this study actually influence policy. Globally, we have talked to colleagues from the World Health Organization, for example, and from CDC, who are also very keen to see the results that come from this study.